Right, so this last session is about what to do the rest of the time when you're not sitting on your meditation cushion. Because if you say if you do an hour of meditation a day, you've got 23 hours of the day left, and what are you doing there? So if you think of it like a pyramid, so for most people like us with normal lives, we're not living in a monastery or something like that, you've got this little bit of intense practice at the top, and then this kind of bigger area underneath. And if you think about it in the same way as exercise, if you go to the gym for an hour a day and then sit behind a computer for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week or whatever, or maybe even more. So a lot of people, they might go to the gym for a bit, they might go to the gym 5 days a week, but spend the rest of their time sitting in front of the computer. Then when they get home, they sit in front of a TV, sit in a car in between. So your body is actually adapting to what you do most of the time, which is, that whatever, rather than the gym. So it's great to go to the gym to do some intense exercise, because the intensity has its own merits in itself. So really intense exercise done a small amount has great benefits for your body. But if you the rest of the time you need to do a decent amount of movement and stuff the rest of the time to be healthy, really healthy. And it's the same with meditation. If you just have this little bit of intense practice, it's going to have a beneficial effect on the rest of your life. But your mind is going to be adapting more to what you're doing most of the time. And that's what this session is about, this part of the pyramid. Because you can end up with a kind of a split life where you have your meditation practice and then everything else. And once you get off the meditation cushion, you just get lost in the day, and then before you know it, it's tomorrow and you're back on your meditation cushion, and that's your moment for being awake, and then the rest of the time you're just sleepwalking through your life. So one practice which comes from the Dzogchen tradition of Tibetan Buddhism is practicing short moments of coming into awareness and awakeness and alertness. That spacious awareness practice that we did this morning. So the saying would be, this is a saying coming from a lady called Candice O'Denver, who's a really eccentric Californian lady who had a very strong waking up to this awareness part of herself. And she has a saying, short moments repeated many times becomes continuous. So it's just like anything else you do in life. If you repeating something, it becomes automatic. And when you practice this over and over again, your level of identification with awareness just increases and becomes more and more automatic. So you're not actually having to try to do it. There's always a level at which you're sort of like pushing the boundary, where you. But there's once. I'm just going to use this analogy, even though it's not perfect. Once you've conquered some territory, it's yours to keep, and then you're kind of going to the next bit, and the bit that you're keeping is automatic. So just having many short moments during the day where you just notice that you are noticing your thoughts and your feelings and your bodily sensations arising. So you're just popping back into that spacious subjectivity, that alert, awake transparency within which all of this is arising. The more you do that, it becomes a habit. And ways you can do that are you can set a timer on your phone to go off every hour. I'm just think about this stuff all the time. So for me, I just it's such a habit. I'm just doing it all the time. But starting off with a timer would be good. One that goes off every hour, every half hour. You could have a little thing in your phone like this. Every time you open up your phone, you could have a little message to yourself that says whatever you know what. It's like short moment or who are you? Ramana Maharshi, this Indian guy, one of his sort of core instructions for meditation was to question, who am I? So if you can notice your physical sensations, you can witness your emotions, you can see your thoughts. If you can see all of that stuff in front of you, who are you? Who's the one that can see all of that? And it's a really profound and compelling question that can occupy you for a lifetime, because you just keep going deeper and deeper into this spacious awareness. So you might have that question: who am I being in this moment? So you might be being reactive to someone says something which gets you all flustered and your mind's racing and you're off, you've lost yourself in this. And it's like, if you ask that question in this moment, who am I being right now? You're being an unconscious daydreamer that's just lost it and is just at the mercy of these sort of wind-like forces which just push you around. And you're not really awake to what's going on. And then, so if you ask that question in that moment, the answer would be, well, I'm not being awake or free. I'm being driven by this scenario. I mean, does this sound familiar? Yeah? Where you yeah. Has anyone got any other suggestions about how you might, practical ones about how you might encourage short moments? Just say it's about remembering to just check in throughout the day. Like, everybody's got things that would work for them.
I used to have a special keyring that I had in my pocket, so if I put my hand in my pocket, I'd feel it remind me to do.
That's a good idea.
We've got one on the wall by the kettle, so we wait for the kettle to boil.
Yeah, that's it. Take it. Yeah, great. You know that Little Book of Calm or something? People have that by the toilet. Every time you go to the toilet, it's like you have a moment of to just check in. I mean, you don't need any writing. It's just a prompt to remind you. Some people have a stone in their pocket, a particular type of pebble. You just like, it's all about remembering, because it's not a difficult, it's a very simple practice. It's not like a complicated thing. But the hard bit is remembering to do it. And remembering in itself is actually waking up. It's forgetting is the process of getting lost in thoughts and feelings, and just like, you know, when you're having a dream and you're just in this crazy scenario, you're not really in control at all of it, you know, and you're just doing all this stuff, and life can feel a bit like that. But then when you kind of, another term they use is putting a wedge of awareness in to a moment before the reaction starts happening. It's like you're aware before it starts. Does that make any sense?
Question.
Yeah.
So is there a difference to being present and awareness? Are they two different things?
No, the feeling of presence is another name for awareness, and I don't mean the sensation of like present, like a physical presence. You're just the feeling of like being conscious. Consciousness is another word for it, but consciousness is a bit tricky, because consciousness quite often for people means one of the contents of consciousness, like thinking consciousness, or you know, loving consciousness or something. But this is consciousness, just consciousness, and then all the contents arising inside it. So that's one thing, short moments, and whatever your preferred technique is. And the more you do it, it becomes a habit, it becomes automatic, and then you don't need that crutch anymore. And so what I was saying, for me, a lot of this stuff is becoming automatic because I've been doing it for such a long time. I'm just a lot of the time asking that question, or remembering to check in, remembering myself in the moment. So this is a question for you guys, right? What would be the benefit of that? So how would that benefit your life? I've got some ideas myself, but I want you to say first. Like, if you had that practice really down, how do you think that would help your life?
You'd be much calmer, I would imagine. Life would be much easier. You wouldn't be in your thoughts all the time. So.
For me, it's like a check-in. This is where I am now. This is how I'm feeling now. What's the next step? Another way of stopping, not worrying about what I haven't done or what I should be doing. Just like, this is where I am. What's next?
What's good about that is that if you're just lost in the train of events, you don't have that much control about what happens next, because you're just getting blown along. Whereas if you have that moment where you go and you pop up out of it and you become aware, that's the kind of wedge of awareness thing where it's like, whoa, okay, and then something else will the next course of action, you've got more freedom to choose what you want to do in the next moment, rather than just be blown along, because you're actually aware. It's like, okay, right, I'm here, I can actually do something about this next moment and choose to do something.
Yeah, if
different.
you're in a stressful situation and it's not doing you any good and you need to change something to help, you got to consciously realise you're in that situation maybe.
That's it. Yeah. When you're lost in it, you don't even realise what you're doing, or you've got no choice about what you're going to do. Whereas if you have this kind of spacious overview of what's going on, it's like the paradox of it is that the more you detach and become free from a situation, the more power you actually have in the world to be free and create what you want to happen in the next moment. So it's,
That makes sense.
yeah.
I was just saying, sorry, I don't know your name.
Pete.
Pete, I was chatting to Pete in break, and I was saying about a friend of mine who's a nurse manager in the hospital in America, and when things are getting really stressful, she's sensing that her nursing staff are stressed, or there's a difficult patient situation. She has a singing bowl like that, and she just goes to the tannoy and just bangs the bowl as an invitation, if you like, for the nurses just to pause. It's giving them permission to go, okay, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? Am I caring? You know, and it's just
Yeah, bringing you back
bringing
to
them
the
into their intention of
yeah,
why they're there.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
And we were saying that'd be nice if you could have that in schools, in classrooms, when things are getting out of hand. You just
yeah,
ring a bell and gives permission for everyone just to calm down
yeah,
and collect themselves
yeah.
and remember what they're doing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think a lot about dying. Ever since I was a kid, and you know, when I was a kid and I found out people die, I was like, oh my god, and I was just so. And I really, really want to feel like I've been here. Before I die, I want to really know that I've actually been awake and experienced this life in every moment. Because we have a friend called Kira who works with with people at the end of their life. She's a Marie Curie nurse, and she shared something on Facebook a while ago of like the sort of 10 things people that are going to die say are the really important things, you know, and it's like that's almost like the list of 10 commandments to live your life by, you know. And I think that for me that's one of the really important features of this type of practice, is actually knowing that you're living your life as it's happening. Rather, I mean, sometimes, you know, you have the experience of like you're very busy and like 2-3 months have gone by and it's like, where the hell did that time go? You know, and I know from talking to older people that they feel like their whole life has been like that, and they regret it. So, you know, for me, I don't want that to happen to me, and I don't want that to happen with other people. So, I think that's a really important, and that's a kind of standard object of meditation in a lot of the traditions, is meditating on the impermanence of life. It's like a classic Tibetan Buddhist thing, or any Buddhist or Hindu thing. People meditating in graveyards and all that kind of stuff. It just cuts straight through all the bullshit. So this we're going to do. We've done this before. The headless experiments. So some of you have been before, have done this. But this is really fun. There's this guy called Douglas Harding, who is an English architect, who he died he was like 98 or something when he died, and it was in about 2000 something, early 2000. And he noticed one day, he was looking at a sketch drawn by, I think it was either an artist or a physicist, I can't remember who it was, but they were basically lying on back on a couch like this with the sketch pad like that, and they'd drawn what they were seeing. So there was the legs, the book with the hands like this, the body, and then where the head would have been was just nothing, because you don't actually see your own head. And he saw that it was called a self-portrait, and he saw that picture and he was like, oh my God, I haven't got a head either. And then spent years and years trying to tell people about this, and no one thought it was very cool at all.
I picked up a book called The Headless Man, which is the same
Yeah.
book. I don't know if it's the same guy, I can't remember who it was.
There's a book he wrote called On Having No Head,
It could have been
Zen and the Art of Headlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked it up the other day.
Which is it's a great book.
Second-hand shop.
Yeah, it's a good book. So this practice is one where two things happen. You get this kind of this thing going on, okay, where you identify with this spacious awareness within which everything is arising, but you also feel like the world is inside of you. Okay, so we're gonna have a go at doing this. It's really simple. So think about this like a child would, as a child would. This is just simple instructions, and we're just playing a game. So point at. It's probably best if we're all facing the same way. Actually, no, I can face. So put the point at something over this way. Okay, so you might point at a painting. So you'll notice that you're pointing at a painting and it's out there. Now point at the floor, a little bit closer to where you feel you are. And you're pointing at something. And now point at your leg. So it's part of your body, but it still feels like it's out there. You're pointing at something out there that you can see. Now point at your chest. And you'll notice that your finger is pointing at something that you can see. And now if you point where your head should be, you don't actually see anything. The end of your finger is not pointing at anything. It's pointing at an empty space. And I know you can see your nose, sort of, yeah, like a kind of blobby, transparent pink thing, but behind your nose, you're pointing at an empty space. Now take your finger away and look at the room and keep that feeling of not having a head. And your head's gone, but the room is inside your head. And just sit with that sensation. How big does your head feel? Does it feel the edges of your head? If you look, really, the edges of your head actually feel like they're at the corners of the room. And how tall is your head? From where I'm looking, the bottom of my head is down on the floor, and then the top of my head is right up on the roof. And all of a sudden, because my face is gone, my face is very relaxed. I don't feel like I'm kind of pushing the world out. It's just inside where my head's supposed to be. And you can try doing it with your eyes closed. And you can do the same thing. How big does your head feel? Does it feel is it a meter? 10 meters? Is it as big as the room? How much space is there inside in your head? You can still have sensations and stuff arising inside your head. Like, I can feel things in my cheek and tongue and that sort of thing. But they are arising in the same space as within which this room is arising. So the inside and outside have collapsed. The outside world and my interior experience of the sensations inside my head are now one thing. Social anxiety is quite a big thing, and if you're a lot of that's to do with the face, you know, your face and another person's face, and them you feel like they're reading the subtle cues in your face and all the twitches and all that kind of stuff. And if you do this practice when you're talking with another person, all of a sudden, your face is gone. And your head's really relaxed. It's something this is a practice I do a lot when I'm having a conversation with a person. It's like it become a cue, a reminder for me to do the headless practice, because sometimes I can feel, I become conscious of my face. And then I realise, oh, actually, from this perspective, first person singular perspective, I don't actually have a face. And if you look in a mirror, what you're seeing is your face there. So if I hold a mirror here, that's my face at a metre away from where I feel I am. But at 0 centimetres from where I feel I am, I don't actually experience having a head. Even though I know you can see my head, and I can see your heads. That's a third person view, but from your actual first person singular perspective, 0 centimetres from where you feel you are, you actually never experience having a head. So this is one that you can do anytime, any place, and you can do it with friends, and it's fun. And it's for me, this has been a really profound thing. But don't expect everyone to think it's great. Another thing you can do, we'll try this one. So if you stand up, and we're continuing with the headless thing. If you point out and then spin on the spot, you'll notice that you are pointing at a spinning room. Look at the end of your finger, but at 0 centimetres from where you feel you are, you're not actually moving or spinning. This is a revolving place inside of you, and you're not actually moving. And if you can experiment with this, we won't do it in here because they're a bit cramped. If you walk or drive, you feel like you're not actually going anywhere. Everything's coming to you and inside you, and that realization can help you feel really big. And it's a way of sort of embodying this thing of being an expanse of open consciousness that's not rejecting anything. You can look up. There's a headless app. I've got it on my phone. Where you can do these experiments. There's other ones too, which are good ones. In fact, we'll do one more. This is called the no head circle. So we'll all stand in a circle here, if there's enough room. Shoulder to shoulder. This is important. Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. It's your shoulder as well, so depending on what size you are. Get really close in. Now, look down, but in a way where you can't really see the heads. And it's just a load of bodies going up to empty space. And this is a way of kind of feeling that we've all got the same experience, that from our own point of view, there's no, we all don't, none of us experience having a head. And you can look at the feet, all the different feet and legs, and they all go up to an empty space. And even though we're all different people, we all have that experience of the emptiness at the place where we call ourselves, where we feel ourselves to be. And when I say emptiness, I mean it's a conscious emptiness. It's clear and aware. We just do it for a minute. What do you reckon? What do you reckon about all this headless stuff?
I can see your head there.
It is
Everyone
fun.
else looks really weird.
Yeah. So this space where your head is supposed to be, that's the space that never changes throughout your life. You know, your body changes, and you look in a mirror, and as you get older, that changes. You know, your hair goes grey and you get wrinkles and all that kind of stuff. But where you feel HQ is, that's always the same. It doesn't change. And it's wide open all the time. I can't look at Pam and try to blank her out of my vision. She's just there. This part of who I am doesn't reject anything. So this is another way of really quickly checking in with that meditative place that I really like, because it's really playful. Yeah, I think I'm about spent. I've run out of things to say. So before we finish, I have got one more thing to say. When you with this practice, like any other practice, you have bits where you're making rapid progress, and then long plateaus, and then progress and a long plateau. And when you're in a plateau, you feel like you're not making any progress, don't get discouraged, because the plateau is part of this. It's like the progress is like steps or something, you know, and you're just on that bit of the thing, and then you're going like that. Because quite often a plateau can be really frustrating. Plateaus can go on for years, so you can get discouraged if you don't. All the books on mastery of whatever discipline, they talk about this thing of plateaus and progress. It's just the way learning happens, and you shouldn't give up. If you're in a plateau, it can feel like a real desert, but you just have to just keep going.
Does it? So from what we've done today, there's no goal. So like progress doesn't.
It depends what type of practice we're talking about. If we're talking about the awakening to empty consciousness, they call it the gateless gate, or the goalless goal, or whatever, because you're only realizing something you already are. You're not actually making something happen. You're just waking up to that part of yourself, which is always calm, always clear, always open. But when it comes to something like the loving kindness meditation, the goal of that is to increase and make more and more and more. And the goal of focusing on your breath is to create more and more focus and concentration power. And that's like a universal skill. It's like a master key or something to any activity. If you can focus, it doesn't matter what it is, it's essential. I've done a lot of drum teaching for years and years, and I've taught thousands of people, and you can really see there are some people that can just focus and they just learn really quickly, and some people that just can't focus and their progress is really poor. Anything else?
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you were talking about setting times in order to become conscious, I've found for me, whenever I eat, I bless my food.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I use water, I bless it. And so for that moment, I'm stopping myself. I'm not just getting my food and eating it.
Yeah.
And more lately, since I've been retired and I've got more time, I'm now consciously cooking, making the bed, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the only downside of it is you become quite friendly with inanimate objects because you start talking to them. But seriously, so there are times that we all eat twice a day, so that's how I started, by just being conscious when I'm just before I'm going to eat, and being great. And so for me, it's given me gratitude and appreciation for everything.
Yeah.
And that's the bonus of it. I actually feel grateful and I appreciate everything.
Nice.
That's really good. Gratitude is its own practice, meditation practice, you know, and the surrendering into that kind of gratitude all the time is a massive release.
It's amazing, actually.
Yeah, and really important, and we take it so much for granted, don't we? All the time. Well, our food's like, I might as well eat something, you know. And then
exactly.
On another part of the planet, someone's like would love to eat, you know, something.
Exactly.
Or water. I think about it all the time with water, just getting fresh water all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, so you know, a meal when you eat and when you drink, you do that several times a day. It's a great opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, about this kind of awareness practice throughout the day is you don't want to end up trying to be aware. It's a really key thing to recognise about awareness is it's effortless. Yeah, you're not trying to see this, you just are. You're hearing that. Yeah. If you can feel like I'm making an effort to be aware in this moment, actually what's happening is you're making an effort and you're aware of the effort. Yeah, the effort is not the awareness. And I've done this myself at certain points in my life, and I've seen other people do it where they're really trying to be aware all the time, and it's just like painful to watch. You know, like I don't know if you've ever overly deliberate movements and eating really, really slowly and chewing every single grain of everything, and it in a really artificial way. Yeah, that's not the aim with that. Cool, well I think we're done then. Cool, that's a long day. But it's all gone. Because there's only ever now. Still now.
We're still doing it.
Yeah, it's now. It's always now in awareness, because that's the only time that awareness is focused on. It's now, and that's. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Power Now. It's a good book by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Cool.
don't forget the past.
Oh yeah.
And be in the present. It's all,
Yeah.
it's all read many philosophies.
Yeah. The past is history, the future's a mystery, now's a present. Yeah. So I'll just ring this as a little ceremonial end. Thank you very much for coming, everybody, for taking this time out of busy lives to investigate who you are.
Or how many.
Yeah, or how many things you are.